Hi everyone. So today I want to talk about a couple of topics that have come up a lot in comments and also direct questions you've been asking me, which is about food cravings and also calorie counts. So I took a little break, I think it's 2-3 weeks from the channel. I really miss you guys. And so there are a few things in my life that I had to sort out, sort of personal matters. And also I had a bit of an accident. I got a little bit of injury with my finger here. So I injured my index finger here. So I want to say I'm totally okay now. It's not a kitchen accident, funny enough. It actually happened when I was decluttering one of my rooms. And, now we're spending a lot more time at home. So I just wanted to kind of throw away some stuff and declutter things in general. So I was moving around the storage boxes and this finger kind of just bumped into one of the storage boxes. And to be honest, I didn't think too much of it at that time because it kind of didn't hurt. So I noticed I bumped into it and it was slightly sore for a moment. But I thought maybe I bruised it. That was it. So I continued to move my boxes until I noticed there was blood kind of dripping down. I don't want to go into too much details, but basically I realized that, it was a bit more serious than I imagined. So I had a look and the cut was pretty deep and it was quite open. Yeah, it was pretty bad. And I was quite surprised because it didn't hurt, not very much. It was a little bit sore, but that was it. So for a brief moment, I thought maybe I should go to a doctor and get it stitched up because it kind of looked a bit more substantial than a regular cut. I couldn't stop the bleeding very effectively. But it was kind of late in the evening. It was kind of 8-9 o'clock. And also with the current situation, I just think the doctors probably had better things to do. So I was rummaging around trying to find plasters, kind of Band-Aid basically. And I found a few loose ones kind of in my drawers. And it dawned on me, I didn't have first aid kit in the house at all. I don't have any dressing or antiseptic wipe and basic stuff like that. So I basically use a lot of tissues to kind of try to stop the bleeding and use the plasters to wrap it up as much as I can. But I had to keep changing it because it just gets soaked. I'm sorry for the gory details, but I just want to highlight something. It's important you taught me a lesson because it kind of highlighted how unprepared I was, not having any sort of basic first aid equipment at home. And particularly with the current situation in the UK, we're still in lockdown. It's a lot harder to get to the doctors or medical care. It's kind of taught me to be more prepared. So the following day, I went to my local pharmacies and got, proper dressing and stuff like that. It's been healing quite well, so I'm totally fine. But I had to kind of refrain myself from cooking too much. So I really miss it because I don't want to do anything that's going to upset the injury and also prolong the healing. So I've been doing minimum amount of cooking. I'm just doing really simple stuff. So I had to have a break from the cooking videos. But luckily, it doesn't stop me from talking, so we can still chat about stuff. So it's a good opportunity to probably chat about some subjects that's been coming up. And because of this experience, I went on Amazon and ordered my first aid kit. It comes with a little pouch like this. So it's got everything in there. It's jam-packed with stuff. And got everything. It's got dressing, it's got bandages, it's got scissors, and it's even got eye pad. It's probably for if you have some sort of eye injuries. Hopefully I won't need it, okay? I don't anticipate any more injuries, okay? Fingers crossed. But this is just peace of mind. And it's a small pouch like this you can get. It's got all sorts of things in there. So if you haven't got one at home, definitely get one of these. It's not expensive. It's even got sort of aluminium emergency blankets. I think it's just keeping you from cold, stuff like that. It just never occurred to me to get a kit like this. I mean, the way you can put it down to the fact that I've been really lucky. I never had any sort of injuries that's more than a cut or a bruise. And this time around, it was a bit more substantial and also unexpected because truly I didn't expect it to have a big cut like this. And because I didn't have it stitched up, so it will probably leave some sort of scarring, which I don't mind. And you'll probably notice it in the future videos. And but at least you know what it is. So I just want to share that with you. So kind of explain my absence for the last few weeks. But hopefully I'll be able to resume the cooking videos from next week. So fingers crossed. So yes, so today I want to talk about food cravings and also calories. So when we think about food cravings, we tend to think about the foods we want to eat and things that we like. So when I look back on my pre-keto days, so my food cravings tend to lead me to sort of comfort foods, things I, kind of indulge or overindulge from time to time. We almost associate it with foods that are perhaps not the best for us, if you know what I mean. Sort of comfort food or things you crave for, maybe things are more starchy and sugary. I'm talking about my non-keto days. So we tend to think that we need to resist our food cravings in some way so we won't be led astray. Because if we just allow ourselves to eat whatever we like to eat, a lot of times we get ourselves in trouble. So this is probably one of the biggest difference being on keto. So if you look at the recipes on my channels, it covers all sorts. It's got stuff that's savory, sweet, main dishes or desserts or snacks, all sorts of things. But if you're on keto, and particularly if you're committed to cooking your own food, the concept of junk food literally doesn't exist. So you can make muffins, you can make cakes, you can make fries, anything like that. So things ordinarily would be put in the category of foods that maybe you shouldn't eat too much because ultimately it's going to do something bad to you. And that concept almost doesn't exist on keto. Because if you look at ingredients that go into stuff like biscuits and cakes or fries, there isn't anything is going to mess up your system unless you have a certain food sensitivity or certain ingredients don't agree with you. So in my case, for instance, if I'm working on a recipe, a lot of times that thing I'm trying to create would be pretty much my main diet for multiple days. So be it cake or biscuits, or a while ago I was working on a donut recipe. So I've been eating donuts all day long. So if I was on a non-keto diet, that would have been a pretty bad diet, pretty poor diet to eat just donuts for multiple days. But if you look at the ingredients, there's almond flour, there's some sweeteners, there's really nothing there to kind of mess up your system. So the point I'm driving to is that when you're on keto, you can kind of trust your body and flow with things you're craving for. It doesn't matter if you're craving for donuts for 3 days or fries, it's kind of okay. And for me, that's a game changer because I no longer have to resist whatever I'm craving to eat. I can just go with it and eat what makes me happy that day. So obviously the caveat is that you're craving for ketogenic food. So for any reason, you're craving for carbohydrate or sugar, and that's a different deal. So once you're on keto for a while, particularly if you're fat adapted, that means your system no longer requires carbohydrate and sugar to run. So it makes no sense for your body to crave for carbohydrate and sugar. So I've seen comments and also questions directly put to me asking what would be the perfect balance in terms of main meals versus desserts or snacky type of things. And is it wrong if I just want to snack all day long? So I would say if your cravings are within ketogenic food, low carb food, I say you can kind of pretty much go with it. We crave for things for good reasons. Sometimes it's emotional needs, sometimes physical needs. So obviously if you're on high carbohydrate and sugar diet, a lot of that craving is driven by this roller coaster of sugar high and sugar lows. So the food craving and hunger become traps more than anything. So if you're on high sugar, high carbohydrate, that means your sugar level is probably surging up and crashes constantly. So when your sugar level crashes, your body will urge you to top up sugar and carbohydrate to bring your level back to normal. I think some doctors comparing sugar to drugs, and I think there's some similarities to it in terms of how it gets your body to be addicted to it. So this is fundamentally why keto is so different. It's kind of addressing that crazy roller coaster that we kind of been riding for the longest time and able to bring our body back to the calm state where all the functions are supposed to do what they're supposed to do, and that's namely food cravings and hunger. If you think about it, this vessel that we have, this body, the primary fundamental drive of our body is to survive, is to thrive. So whatever it does it for a reason. And it makes no sense for your body to signal you, tell you to consume foods that does not serve you, if that makes sense. If you think about what your body wants you to be alive for as long as possible. And talking about healing, I've got a prime example here. The cut was so deep and wide, it was hard to imagine that you would be healed and back to normal again. And now a couple of weeks later, it's not 100% yet, but it's pretty much back to normal in the sense that the injury, the opening is kind of fused together. And that's healing power. And that's what our body is designed to do. It's a self-healing system. So all the functions in our body is there to help us to survive, to thrive, to be well. So if you believe that's true, it makes no sense your body will signal you to eat something that's going to be detrimental to you. But obviously if you're on high carb or high sugar diet, those signals are drowned underneath the roller coaster, the sugar high and low that you're on constantly. You can no longer hear what your body's really trying to say, and all you have is those impulses that's driven by sugar high and sugar lows. And we've all been there. And for a lot of us, in order to bring our body back to balance, is to practice something like ketogenic diet. And once you remove all the noises and be able to really hear what your body is trying to tell you, hunger and food cravings are two of your best friends. It guides you in terms of what your body needs nutritionally, but also emotionally as well. You know, food is not just there to stop us from hunger. Food is there to bring us pleasure, sense of occasion, to make us happy emotionally as well. And in terms of nutrition, I can't tell you how many times I'll crave for a certain type of food or certain vegetables. I remember craving for raw spinach for the longest time. It was very specific. It wasn't cooked spinach, but raw spinach. And also raw cucumbers for some reason. I was literally dreaming about it. You know, for a long time, I couldn't get enough of cucumbers. I mean, you can hardly call cucumbers as comfort food, but I think my body needed something from cucumbers at that time, raw cucumbers and raw spinach. So my body was urging me to consume those foods. So these are kind of, you know, hints you could follow in terms of what you should incorporate in your diet. You know, same as hunger. I talked about this before. I only eat when I'm hungry. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. So I don't follow meal times. I just follow my hunger. So if I'm not hungry, it doesn't matter, it's lunchtime, dinner time, I don't eat. I wait till I'm genuinely hungry. So my point about food craving is that it's a powerful tool that you can harness to guide you to consume foods that really serve your body. And it's something that I could never dare to do when I wasn't on keto, because most of the times it would take me to junk food and foods that's going to cause problems for my body. So the key is to bring your body back to balance. So food cravings become your friend. And it doesn't matter what you're craving for, is a plate of salad or keto muffins. It kind of frees you up from having to resist to so-called temptations all the time, because I don't have to go through that mental battles constantly, you know, resisting hunger or resisting food cravings. I can just go with it and allow them to be my guide. And another thing is the calories. So those of you who have been following me for a while know that I don't count macros. I simply weigh myself every day, and that's pretty much all I do. But there's a kind of added element on top of macros, which is calories. Many of you have been asking me about in terms of, you know, how many calories in my recipes, etc. So with macros, I can kind of see that could help some people to kind of maintain certain ratio of their food choices. But when it comes to calories, it's pretty much abolished from my mind as a meaningful way for me to track my food consumption. And it's a hard one for a lot of people to digest, because we're taught to count calories from day one, really. And everything we buy that's in the packet will have calories attached to it. And I recommend you look into Jason Fung, Dr. Jason Fung's work. He's got tons of talks on YouTube that you can look into. So if you look at how calories are measured. So they basically burn a piece of food item, let's say a piece of steak, and see how much is able to raise water temperature by 1 degree, I think. And they allocate fixed number of calories to, let's say, protein, and carbohydrate and sugar. So when you look into nutritional values on a packet of food, that's pretty much how they come up with calculation of calories. That's pretty much it. So you might ask, well, then where does human body come into it? And the answer is it doesn't, because there's no receptor in our body to be able to measure or respond to calories. Our body does not understand calories. So the concept is purely based on the energy it creates when you burn a piece of food. That's pretty much it. So I think it's science kind of quick and dirty way to come up with really simplistic calculations. It's a bit like BMI. It's based on your height, weight, age, and gender. It's not taking into account of your muscle density, your shape, or all the other factors. It's under the assumption that every human body is a clone of each other, and we all function the same way. And we all know it's grossly untrue. If that was true, then our body is simply like a calculator. You put in this amount, take out that amount, and you end up with the same result with everyone. And we know it doesn't happen. And the reason it doesn't happen is because we're made differently. And we have different hormonal responses to food, and it makes us all individual. And if you have any doubt, just look up for big eater videos on YouTube. I think a lot of you probably have seen those people who consume huge amount of food in one setting. You know, either it's eating competition or for entertainment. A lot of times these individuals are normal build or even very slim. And you go, that doesn't make sense, because they've just consumed 8,000 calories in one setting. And they do that on a regular basis, but they don't put on weight. It doesn't mean it's healthy to do. They might have other health issues. But as far as weight goes, it doesn't seem to affect them. And we can observe that. There may be extreme examples, but there is a level of that happening with all of us. That we're all different in some ways. We can eat the same amount of food, the same type of foods, but it can create very different results. So in theory, for those people, when they consume 8,000 calories, they should gain about 3 kilos overnight, but they don't. So we know something is up. You know, calories might not be the be-all and end-all. Maybe it doesn't even make sense. How can something being done in a lab with no human body involved to be used as a way to measure how our body consume energy? It doesn't make sense. So I think calories is one of the prime examples that kind of highlights the issues with our health education in terms of the concept that's kind of instilled in us, that we hold as true without actually knowing what it really means. And it probably explains why diet involving counting calories in terms of reducing calories never work. You know, we're kind of instilled this idea from day one. You know, it's taught in schools, by dietitians, by doctors. So in theory, it is true that the more calories you consume, i.e. more food that you consume, the more likely you're going to have weight issues. But 5,000 calories of kale is not the same as 5,000 calories of carbohydrate and sugar. It produces totally different effect. You know, I can't really imagine consuming 5,000 calories of kale, but you can probably consume 5,000 calories of carbohydrate and sugar. It's a lot easier. So same calories, but totally different deal. So in that sense, calories no longer have meanings in my life. And as I said before, once your body is in a balanced state, it will regulate your appetite. It's unlikely you would overconsume something that doesn't serve your body. And it's a delicate relationship because we're kind of trained not to trust our body, because we're so conditioned to not trust our cravings and hunger, because they often lead us astray. So it's about rebuilding that trust and understand what your body needs and do things to help it, to help you. And this also reminds me of serving sizes, which I'm asked quite frequently in terms of what is the correct serving size for a recipe. And I would say a serving size is something for you to define, not by someone else, because it's an arbitrary number. So very often when I look at the some nutrition values on the packet, so it says 80 grams per serving and this amount of calories, I often think, serving size for whom? Because a portion of food doesn't matter what food you eat. It doesn't exist in isolation. It's about how it fits into your day's eating or your week's eating. It can vary so much. It's not like a dosage of medicine. So for someone to go, well, serving size is 30 grams or 50 grams or 100 grams, it simply doesn't make sense in my head. So I say look at your diet on a macro level rather than micro level. It will probably give you a much better idea where you are. It's like looking at a landscape rather than focusing on a pot of land. And I think it will also make your life easier. So you don't have to constantly focusing on small details. I think the important thing is to constantly educate ourselves and not just buy into a concept and take it as it is without questioning. Once you rebuild and reestablish this relationship you can have with your body, it might take some time. You can start to trust it to guide you to where you need to go. And there will be times the body doesn't seem to want to do what you want it to do. And I say be forgiving to your body. Trust your body is constantly trying to do its best because that's what your body is designed to do. So when it comes to weight, for instance, if it needs to stay a certain way for a while, there are probably very good reasons. Your body is there to protect you and to keep you well and healthy. You just need to help it along the way. And so this is what I wanted to share with you, and I hope it's somewhat helpful. And hopefully we'll be able to do some cooking next week, and I really miss it. So thank you for watching or listening, and follow my Instagram, and I'll see you next time.